Hello and welcome to the Maven Analytics Data Drills number 7, Turning Bullish DAX Query Solution. So if you're interested in doing the solution on your own, I think it's best maybe to stop the video at this juncture and you can go and try it on your own, and then maybe you can come back to this video and you can compare notes. So I think that being said, without further ado, we can start the walkthrough. Okay, so just going through the objective quickly. We're given a data set which contains daily closing prices for the SPDR or Spider S&P 500 ETF Trust, aka SPY, over the last 5 years. Your task is to calculate the 50-day and the 200-day moving averages based on the closing price and identify every golden cross moment. When the short-term average 50-day crosses from below to above the long-term average, the 200-day, signaling a potential bull market. So this is ideally what we're supposed to be looking for. And then to complete the drill, we have to create 3 new columns. The first for the 50-day moving average for each date, the average closing price for the last 50 trading days, the 200-day moving average, which is the average closing price for the last 200 trading days, and the golden cross, which will be a binary field, a 1 or a 0, 1 meaning that is the exact date where the golden cross takes place. Okay, so I think when you go to the website, you can download the data set. And if you want, they also have the solution video and tutorial over there. So what you're seeing now is one of the instructors, I think his name is Aaron, solving it with a visual calc solution, which does involve writing DAX, but it's a bit different. I think this was very clever. Use the new visual calc feature in Power BI, but today we'll be just doing a DAX Query Solution. So without further ado, let's begin. Okay, so we're now currently in Tabular Editor. I've already connected to the data set. Maybe we can just see what it looks like quickly. I'm using Tabular Editor 3, by the way. So it's just basically just as the instruction said, just the date column and the closing price of the SPY. Okay, so first thing I usually like to do is just make some measures or some metrics just in case you might need them later on. So first of all, I'll just have like the closing price. So this would be just simply closing price. Okay. And this would just be the sum of the close. Okay. And then let's just display that to see what we get. Okay. It's giving me an error. Oh, sorry, it's closing price. Okay, so what we get over here is 595,722. So it's working. The measure is working as expected. It's just a sum, but it's just summing the whole column of closing prices. So it doesn't really give you a meaning, but we might need it later. So the next thing I want to do is to calculate the 50-day moving average. So for the 50-day moving average, I guess we'll start by saying, we'll just create a measure. We'll call it 50-day MVA. And then we'll create a variable to store the maximum, the last date. I'll get back. I'll explain why in a few moments. Then we get the maximum of the date. Okay. So we are basically getting the last date for each date, which essentially will be the exact date we're evaluating. So let me explain that a little more. So I guess the evaluation context for example, this date, 4th November 2020, maximum date will be 4th November 2020. So that when it looks back, it's going to start from here, going backwards. Okay. Then we are going to have a variable that gets us the last 50 rows. Okay. Last 50 rows, which we will use a top end function, because we use the top end function because they're missing dates. I just noticed, I don't know if you've noticed, if you examine the data set carefully, you'll see 1st of November is not there, 7th, 8th, and the 9th. So if you use maybe other time intelligence functions, you might get some errors because the dates are missing. So that's why we use top N to account for that. And then we get top 50. Where do we get the top 50? We create a temporary table. Temporary table, I'm going to remove the, so we're going to remove the filters from our main table. Remove all the filters from the main table. Then so then after we remove the filters from the main table, then we just filter the same table, and we filter the dates, and we filter it by our last date that we just defined. Then once we get that table, we go 50 rows backward, and so what's going to, the order by expression is just going to be the date. Sorry if this is not making sense. Maybe I'll make an in-depth tutorial. I have a blog post, I think, that may come out or has already come out by the time of this video. So you can check that out for a more in-depth detail. And then, so once we get the top 50, so we have the table that we want, then we are going to return, the average. Now we have the table that we want. We are just going to iterate over that same table, and then we're just going to find the average of all those closing prices. So it should be SPY close. So what you can do here is reference the column or reference the measure we define here. And let's see what we get. So after we do that, we're going to check what we get. We're going to just have a summary query, which is summarize columns. And how are we going to summarize it? We want the date. We want the date, and then what else do we want? We want the closing price. Then we want our new measure, which is the 50-day MVA. So I'm just gonna copy this, paste it here. Okay. Then I'm gonna mute this because we already know the output of that. And then we run this. Sorry, let me just okay, so it gives me a result, but let me just give an order by. Order by dates. And then we'll just do it in descending order. Then we get our 50-day MVA, which is 662.172. I think that's correct. And then next thing we're going to do is get the 200-day. So it's basically the same thing, just changing. What we're going to do is just going to change this value over here. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this. And paste that. Okay, so paste that there. I don't think we need this anymore. And then I'm going to change this to 200. And this to 200 as well. And then let's see what we get. Okay, we get a result here. So 200-day, yeah, okay. So I think it's correct as well. It's just that it has a lot of decimals. Maybe we can round that off. Maybe we'll just round off the final result. just to make sure we get it exactly. Okay. So now what's left is to find the golden cross. And the golden cross is basically 2 parts. So you find if the 50-day MVA is greater than today's 200-day MVA. So that would be, for example, if you need to have a check that today, let's say today is the 31st of October, 2025, you have to check if this 50-day MVA is greater than today's 200-day. So for this would be correct. I mean, the check would pass because 662 is greater than 609. However, you need to check the previous day, or rather the previous entry, because we're not checking the dates, checking the entries or the rows. Check the previous row. If the 50-day MVA was less than today's 200-day. Sorry, if yesterday's 50-day MVA was less than yesterday's 200-day MVA, so this check would fail because this 661 is greater than 608, so it should be below. So we're calculating the golden cross for this date. The first check would pass, but the second check would fail because the 50-day MVA was above the 200-day MVA. So we need to do that check for each and every single date. And how we do that? I'm just going to do it straight away. By straight away, I mean do it as a query. So I'm not going to make any more measures. So we're going to evaluate the I'm going to create a new query. I'm going to create a temporary table, which the temporary table is going to be the table that we have, the exact table that we have here, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to create another variable whereby we're going to add a new column. Okay, I'll explain that in a minute. We're going to pass in the previous table, and the new column will be the previous 50-day MVA. Okay, so the reason why we're doing this is because we already have a way to make the first check. What we need is on the same row a mechanism to make that second check that I was talking about. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull this row and have it on the same row as this, and then make that second check. So we already have the current date, 50 and 200-day MVA. So we're going to add columns to bring this guy or this girl over here, and this one to bring it on the same row over here, so we can easily make the second check for each row. So that's what we're doing over here. And how to bring that value on the same row, we're going to use the offset function. That's how we're going to do it. Then we're going to say we're going to pass in the delta, which is the, as you can see the explanation, the number of rows negative or positive, the current from which to obtain the data. So we're going to offset the row by 1 because we just want to go back once. We're going to pass in the previous table and how the order by is going to be in ascending order. So that's order by, let's see. So that's going to be order by we want the date here. Sending. Okay, we're gonna close that. Oh no, it's supposed to be like this. Let's see if that's correct. Something wrong. Okay. Oh, okay, sorry. Forgot to pass in the calculate. Of course. So calculate 50 days. So 50 day MVA. Okay, I'll explain everything in a minute here. Calculate the 50-day MVA. Add columns. Yeah, I think it's correct. So basically, we have to add a calculate because we are trying to create going to force a context transition. Yeah, maybe more on that later, but so for each expression here, we're going to go back by 1. So basically I'm just saying for this expression, 50-day MVA, go back by 1 for each row for this filter context. Okay. Yeah, so if this is a bit confusing, sorry. You might be a beginner, maybe, I don't know, maybe, but if you are, maybe I'll make a course later on. Maybe we can go step by step and go through all these concepts one by one. So next thing I'm going to do is add another column, which will be the previous day 200. Same thing, but now getting some errors. What's the error? Okay, let me just format this maybe. Okay. Okay, just give me a second. Let me see what's wrong here. Okay. So I guess I just forgot to add a bracket over there to close the bracket over there, but I think it's okay now. Then we calculate the new column, the 200 day, and then so maybe we can just see what we get. Let's see what we get. So let's return y. Okay, so Okay, let me order by again. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, so basically you can see that we have achieved our goal. So you can see that this value has moved to this position and this value has moved to this position. So now we have all of them in one row. So it can be easy to check, do the second check. So once we've done that, what's left is to just write the conditional. So I'm gonna, because we want the result of that, so the result of that table, we're going to have to add columns again. I mean, we want the output of that table to be the input of this one. So we add the column all in cross, and this would be an if the 50, it's gonna go and copy it from here. Okay, so if the 50-day MVA is greater than the 200-day MVA, and the previous day MVA is less than the previous day 200-day MVA. If this is both true at the same time, then we'll return a 1, else we'll return a 0. Meaning 1 for it's a golden cross, 0 if it's not. Then let's see what happens. Let's just return X instead. See what we have at the moment. Yeah, so now we have our column, golden cross column. So you see it's returning a 0 because this is, even though this is true, the 50 days above the 200, the previous day is false because the 50-day is still above the 200. So this should be different. And then we get a 1. So there are a lot of zeros. So what we can do is just define the exact date that we want. But this is I guess, a big table. Let me see how many rows. It's about 1,000 rows. So instead of scrolling through 1,000 rows and picking, checking visually, you can just write DAX expression to get the exact one that we want. So we're going to pass the X, our temporary table that we have. Then we're going to filter, and we're going to say for the golden cross column, we just want all the rows that have a 1. Okay. So then we run this and we get all the rows that satisfy our conditions. which means this is above the present day and is above, and the previous day is below, even though it's only below by some decimal points, 0.5 decimal points, but it still satisfies the condition. So this would be the first golden cross in 2025, and then the second one was in 2023. So that was 394.3, was above 394.2, and yesterday 393.9 was below 394.3. Okay. So I think in terms of the solution, let me see. I think they just wanted the most recent one. So that would be this value, 617.65. So let's go and try and put that in the website, the Data Drills website. Okay, so let me just copy this. Then I'm gonna paste it in here. Let's see what we get. Okay. Yeah, so they say, nice job, you nailed it. The solution was correct. So it seems that was the right answer. And yeah, maybe we can end the video there, but I think we can just visualize it, have the same maybe graph on Power BI and see, like, I think it would just be much cooler if it was a graph. So let's just visualize that quickly in Power BI. Okay, so here we are in Power BI. So I just quickly created the golden cross table over here. And this is the SPY. Yeah, so let's just visualize it. So we're going to insert a line chart. The x-axis is going to be the date, obviously. Y going to be a closing price. Then on the secondary axis, okay, let me add the averages as well. So 50-day, 200-day, and then on the other axis, we're going to have the golden cross. Yeah, so I think it's pretty cool like this. Then just add in some zoom in sliders. Let's change the theme. Maybe this one. Okay, maybe this one over here. Change the title. And I think the y-axis as well. Okay. Then maybe we can add some data labels. Let's reduce the density. Okay. Yeah, so here you can see visually the golden crosses. So if you were monitoring this report, you can just check for yourself. Whenever you see a huge line go across the data, then you know This is a golden cross right here. So maybe that's the time to buy. Yeah, so I think that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Bye.